People often say that Batman doesn't have any superpowers and or that Batman's superpower is the fact that he is incredibly rich. And both of those statements are stupid and wrong. Batman does have a superpower and it is not his money. His superpower is his trauma. If he did not watch his parents get murdered in that alleyway right after they got done watching the movie or symphony or opera or play or whatever it is that their rich asses were watching in whatever variant of the story that you are familiar with, then he would not be who it is that he is today. Well, fictionally today, but you understand the point. He wouldn't be Batmaning. He wouldn't be driving around in his Batmobile and his Bat Cave with his bat suit and his batarangs and his various bat accessories and all of that whatnot and fighting Mr. Freeze and the Joker and the Penguin and all of the people that he fights and stopping crime all across Gotham City. There would be no light shining up in the sky with the bat symbol or any of that. He would just be some dude who was rich as shit. Yes, he would still be rich because he's not rich because he's Batman. He is Batman and he is also rich. But he would just be some rich dude who may or may not have a cave under his house. And if he did have a cave, it will probably be for super weird reasons, not superhero vigilante ones. It is that moment in his life that made him into who it is that he is. It is that tragedy. It is witnessing that tragedy. It is experiencing that tragedy. It is going through that loss. It is going through that pain that allowed him to do all of the things that he currently does. It is that moment that set him on his journey of becoming the best version of himself, the strongest version of himself, the smartest version of himself, the bravest version of himself, the most disciplined version of himself, and all of those other things. Without it, he would just be some, I don't know what the Wayne family business is, but something in a building with hedge funds probably. I don't really know what it is. That's not really relevant to the point. But he would just be that instead of the, what is it, the Caped Crusader or the Dark Knight or any of those things. Nobody would give a fuck about him and who it is that he is. Yes, I'm aware this is a fictional character, but the entire point of the story is that he witnessed sad shit and went off to do a whole bunch of things. And people love the story of Batman because he doesn't have any traditional superpowers. He just has his physical strength and his intelligence and his wits and all of that whatnot to solve crimes and beat people up and lay various traps and menace people in the way that he does. But all of that was fueled by his tragic past. And you can do the exact same thing with yours. You can use whatever it is that you've been through. You should use whatever it is that you've been through. That's what it is meant for. That's why you go through these things, so you can take them and use them as the building blocks to make something great. But instead, everybody just wants to take their stupid little trauma and go to therapy and get a reason to get on some sort of prescription and whine about it so everyone feels sad for them and they take their little meds and use it as an excuse to not do nothing and or use it as a thing to try and make themselves interesting because they have never done anything that is actually worthwhile. That is a humongous fucking waste of that. That is a waste of adversity. That is a waste of an obstacle. All of these things are meant to give you strength. All of these things are meant to make you into who it is that you could be, not prevent you from becoming someone like all of these people seem to think that they had a sad childhood. Now they're never going to be able to accomplish anything. That is stupid, and that is also entitled, because the basis of that belief is that they deserve to have better than they did, and that is absolutely false. You get what it is that you are meant for, and what you do with that is up to you. But most people squander it. If you had the worst experiences in the world, it doesn't matter what it is. If your parents died, if they abandoned you, if you were beaten, if you were mistreated, if you were bullied, if you were ostracized, if your fucking kids died, if you got cancer or some shit like that at a very young age, whatever it is that you have been through, whatever you can take and think of as, man, this was the worst experience of my life and things would be so much different if I didn't go through it. You could take that experience, whatever the fuck it is, and that experience should be the reason that you are able to do any and every other fucking thing in the world. If you've lost your parents at a young age, yes, that's a tragic thing for you maybe, and that's unfortunate, and that's sad, and that's hard to deal with. But the bonus in that is, if you've already dealt with that, you've already been through it, you've already shown yourself that you can go through hard things. So how is it that you were able to go through that hard thing, but you can't take your ass to the gym gym? Is going and working out when you don't feel like it harder than the pain of losing your parents? Is not eating whatever food that pops into your head worse than the pain that you felt when the doctor told you that you had cancer when you were only 15? Is the pain of doing work that you're supposed to do even though you're not really in the mood to do it worse than how you felt when you were beat up at school because your parents were poor and couldn't buy you nicer shoes or nicer pants or whatever the fucking case may be? No, it's not worse than any of that. So if your bar for pain tolerance, while it might not be physical pain, sure, maybe it is, who knows, depending on what the fuck it is that you've been through, but if your bar for pain tolerance is already that high, then everything else underneath of that bar should be should be easy. The worse that your childhood was, the better that your adulthood should be. The worse that your past was, the better that your present should be, because all of that shit should have given you a great example of what it is that is truly difficult, of what it is that it is truly hard to deal with, what is truly unpleasant, what is truly uncomfortable. And that should give you the context to say that anything is not that is obviously very easily overcomable. If you could beat childhood cancer, if you could beat being abandoned at a gas station, if you could beat homelessness, then why the fuck can't you beat your lack of motivation? Why the fuck can't you beat the sad shit that you're going through on some day? If all of the shit that you've been through was as bad that you say it was, good, because that means everything else is easy, and you should have absolutely no excuse to not be doing that shit or to not be the best version of you, or at the very least on the fucking path to do it. You could sit there and cry about that shit all that you want to. You could boo-hoo and throw pity parties about how it was that your childhood was compared to everybody else's, how all of the other kids had two parents and got birthday parties and the gifts that they wanted and no one bullied them and all of these things happened to you. You grew up with a single parent, no one celebrated you or gave a fuck about your birthday or came to your games or cared what grades you got or any of that shit. Or you can say, I've made it through all of that, so the rest of this shit should be completely fucking easy. If you have spent your entire life walking over hot coals, then by the time you get onto normal ground, whether that ground is comfortable or not, it should be easy to walk on. Who gives a fuck if the ground is a little bit rough and slightly warm? Your feet were just burning a few miles ago, so if you could beat that, if you could walk over that and deal with your feet burning through that, why the fuck can't you deal with the slight discomfort that you get with the other shit? People use this shit so completely fucking wrong. You should want hard times. You should want adversity. You should want difficult things. You should want things that you could look back on and think, man, I am really happy that I went through that because that showed me that I could make it through anything. That has shown me that all of the rest of this shit is really easy, because at the end of the day, accomplishing shit is easy. Going to the gym is not actually difficult. You might not feel like it, sure. You might have to struggle mildly, sure, but that's not really a difficult thing to do. Losing weight is not a difficult thing to do. You're going to not eat food and then think about eating food. Ooh, maybe you'll eat food that you like less than other foods that you can eat. Ooh, maybe you'll eat food that you don't even really like. Ooh, whoop-de-fucking-do. These aren't real problems, especially not if everyone's life was as hard as they fucking claimed that it was, especially if nobody really knows what it's like to be them, like everyone so dramatically claims that they don't, or that other people don't, or I lost track of the way that I should be wording, but you understand the fucking point. It makes perfect goddamn sense. If all of these things are actually true, then all of the rest of this shit is easy. You should have no problem starting a business. You should have no problem dealing with rejection. You should have no problem putting yourself out there and being judged by strangers. None of that shit should be worse than the time that you were fucking molested by your uncle or whatever the fuck it is that has happened to you. However bad your situation was, everything else is easy. Maybe you grew up super poor. That sucks. But that means that you're used to going without. So you can focus all the shit that you need to do into accomplishing what it is that you would like to accomplish without having to worry about trying to keep up with people and impress random people like other people feel the need to do. You can live as bare bones as possible while you stack all your money to do all of these other great things that you have in mind. If you barely ate food, you spent most of your time starving and getting scraps, then amazing. You should have absolutely no problem going on a diet. You're already used to being hungry. If you got bullied a lot as a kid and you had to fight a bunch good. It should be really fucking easy to go to the gym. If everyone made fun of you as a child, then amazing. Children are much meaner than adults are. You should have no problem with adults making fun of you while you try and go off and accomplish whatever goals it is that you have that they tell you shit's not possible. None of that shit killed you before, so why would this lesser shit kill you now? That's the perspective that you should have. That's the way that you should be viewing these things. You should be thanking God. You should be thanking the universe for the adversity. You should be wishing that it was much worse so that you could have overcome much more, so that you can overcome much more. The higher that you go, the better that you will feel if you've come from much lower. It's very easy to start off at the starting line where everyone else does and make it to the top of the mountain. But what about the people who start in a pit, in a deficit? That's what all of your trauma is. It makes your story that much better. It makes you that much stronger, or it should, if you use the shit properly. If you're not using it to make excuses or get sympathy and have everybody feel sorry for you. All of the hard times are what, that's the fuel that you need to make all of the rest of your times as incredible as possible. So if your childhood was rough, good. If your past was rough, good. If you wish that you had two parents, then you only had one, amazing. That's good. If you were adopted, you never met your real parents, good. If you got diagnosed with some fucked up shit at a young age, good. If you were abandoned, if you were beaten, if you were bullied, if you were mistreated, if you were left out, if you were excluded, if you were whatever the fuck it is that you were that happened to you before today, good. That's fucking amazing. I hope you had the worst times of your life and they already passed, so that you can see that nothing is as bad as that shit, and every single other thing that you can do can be fucking easy. You mean that you got through all of these terrible things but you can't fucking wake up early? You got through all of these terrible things but you can't work because you're having a bad mental health day? Fuck you. That is ungrateful, that is a complaint, and that is entitlement, and that is a bunch of bitch shit. Stop being a fucking bitch. You made it through a bunch of hard shit so you can make it through what the fuck ever.